Yo, what is going on guys, it's Kryptic TMG and I'm back with a brand new video. This time it's the AOR GT3 Elite Championship Round 3 Season 10 and it's at Indianapolis road course and it's reverse grid this time, so we're going to be starting sort of nearest to the back. I think we're not actually starting right at the back because of a few guys who missed the first or second race. They were put at the back because it was seen as sort of a unfair advantage, I think. So I think I'm starting around 8th position, 8th, 7th, I'm not too sure. I knew there's a few people that actually pulled out of the race at the last minute, so yeah, should be an interesting race. Should be able to hopefully make our way to the front and see if we get score some valuable points. Obviously we'll have CJ, Ollie starting behind us, and yeah, hopefully we can get a good run in. So onto the outlap, and yeah, just about to get into position. At this point I wasn't actually too sure what side I was supposed to be starting on, because I think maybe two or three of the guys who were starting in front of me actually ended up pulling out of the race. So I wasn't too sure, but we get into position anyway, and this was going to be a bit of a tricky start because it's quite a long run down to turn 1, and obviously with these cars the Porsche is really fast down the straight, so it's going to be hard to sort of hold position if I can't get a good jump. But it's sort of a long way all the way up to the line, so I could actually have preempted the start, but I couldn't overtake the cars on the road before, as are the AOR rules. So we managed to get I mean, it's a pretty average start. You can see I think Ollie's already passed us, and we get down the inside but we brake pretty early. Just be a bit cautious on the first lap, 63 laps to go, and we actually end up losing quite a few positions. We lost the position to Ollie, to CJ, who they are sort of the championship rivals. So they already passed us by this stage, so at this moment in time I'm just sort of trying to keep my nose clean and just hope that I can get sort of into the pit stop window. I was sort of planning to pit quite early within the first sort of half of the race, the first sort of 12 laps. I was planning to pit just to get the free air if I did get held up, and as you can see we've got a pretty poor start, so we definitely we're going to have to pit early. So we were looking to pit around lap 11 or something like that, so we just had to keep as close to our rivals as possible in this period. You can see CJ's got the run on Jam My 21, he's going up the inside. I'm sort of not close enough to do anything, but going into the first corner, and from nowhere we get absolutely wiped out. And at the time when it happened I wasn't even too sure what happened. I didn't know whether it was a glitch or anything, so I didn't know what was going on. I just saw 100% damage at the rear, and that's all sort of cars behind me, so I thought someone must have hit me, but I got hit so hard I wasn't even sure. I thought, don't tell me P-Cars 2 have got these sort of the invisible wall glitches or the proximity mine bug that we had on P-Cars 1, where you just drive and all of a sudden your car just blows up. So at this time I was like, unbelievable, but yeah, as you can see, 100% damage. Had to just enter the pits, and I think we had Infinity behind us, which is the guy who actually hit us. So obviously both got massive amounts of damage, and at this point the race is pretty much screwed already. But we'll just have to have another sort of fight through drive, and I was actually surprised at how long the pit stop took. I thought I'd be there for around about a minute or so because I had 100% damage, but as you can see the pit stop was 22.5 seconds, which wasn't that bad. Obviously it's a lot longer than what it would have been if I had just had a normal pit stop, but it was reasonable for the amount of damage that I thought I sustained. I'm pretty sure I lost my rear wing, which is the reason why I had 100% damage. So yeah, I was just sort of worried about getting lapped by the leaders, because if I came out just in front of the leaders I'm going to be getting mad blue flags, and obviously I'm going to have to let them through, not to sort of disrupt the race and get involved. So I was just eager to get out of the pits and hopefully be far enough ahead of the leaders where I could sort of focus on my own race. But you can see as I'm coming into the last corner, the leaders, as I come towards the last sector, the leaders are not that far behind me. I think they're around six or so seconds behind me, so I'm not that far away from getting lapped, and it's only lap 4 of the race. So I was so frustrated at this point, but yeah, it's just one of them things, and I just sort of thought, I might as well just get my head down and just see what I can do. Sometimes in these situations that you always feel like you just want to quit, because you know your race is over and you're probably not going to be racing anybody because you're so far behind. But I thought you never know what can happen to other guys, you never know what can happen at other races, and every point you pick up could be valuable, so you just sort of got to keep on pushing and just see how it goes. As you can see, they're the leaders, they're already through turn 1, they're not that far behind me at all, so I'm just going to sort of focus on my own pace. The one down thing about obviously having to pit so early is that I didn't have enough space in my fuel tank to put fuel in to get me to the end of the race, so I knew that I'd have to pit again unless I was to sort of run in lean the whole race. I probably have to save around 8-9 laps worth of fuel, which is not easy. So yeah, it was a bit of a struggle, but I thought I'll just push and just see where it gets me, and if I have to pit again, I have to pit again. I will try and save fuel, so I was still flicking it into lean in certain sections just to try and make a difference, but at the same time I just wanted to push, because I don't want to do a race that's 63 laps and just spend the whole race just managing fuel. So I still wanted to push and just try and keep a good pace. As you can see, we're sort of low 25s in a minute, and we're catching up to Infinity, so maybe we can get sort of a wheel-to-wheel battle going, because obviously when you're so far behind everybody, it's sort of like you're kind of just racing yourself. I mean, there's 12 other guys on the track, but you would never know it, because I just felt like it's just me, and the only person I can see at all is Infinity. So yeah, it was one of them ones where you can get bored very quickly, but sometimes for me personally, I know sometimes it's just, I feel sometimes I drive a little bit better when I'm racing sort of angry. But you see Infinity goes off there and you don't really get to have that wheel-to-wheel battle, so it's sort of like a free position in a way. So yeah, we're up now into 12th position. We're not even in the points at this moment in time, but yeah, it was just about just pushing and just see where we can get to. I was sort of just thinking, right, what I'm going to do now is just hammer it. Sometimes when you're racing and you're sort of racing for the top positions, you can be a little bit more reserved. You try not to push as hard, trying to make mistakes, but when your race has already been compromised, you sort of just hammer it, and you think, if I spin, I spin, because you're not really losing out on anything. But at the same time, I was sort of happy with my pace. I was sort of lapping consistently within 3 tenths every lap, which I thought was bringing me a little bit closer to the leaders. At this point in time, I think the Goonie was leading the race, and I could see his pace was pretty similar to mine, because I was sort of watching the gap towards the leaders, and I could see that with his pace he was going to start sort of breaking away. So I knew if he breaks away from everybody else, then technically I'll be catching everybody else, because we were matching sort of pace, or from what I could tell anyway. So I just thought I'd just keep pushing and see where it gets me. Lap 22 and still I haven't seen anybody on track. Literally feel like it's just a private test session and I'm just ringing it. I haven't seen no headlights, nothing. The only person I've seen really, apart from the first lap of the race, after that I only saw Infinity briefly, and then after that it was pretty much just me driving around trying to hammer it and seeing what I could do. But obviously in the back of my mind I always had that thing that I'm going to have to pit again, so regardless of how fast I'm going or how far I might get up the field, I knew that I'm going to have to make that extra pit stop. So it was pretty annoying knowing that I wasn't really wherever I came out after everybody had pitted wasn't going to be my real position, because I was then going to have to pit again. But I was sort of happy with the consistency that I was showing, and not really making any mistakes, just sort of getting my head down and just pushing, and the car felt pretty good. And yeah, it was just one of the races where, to be honest, I was getting bored while driving, because this race was in fact half an hour longer than normal, because it was an endurance race, hour and a half. It's sort of like it was getting boring and tedious, sort of, when you're not racing anybody. When you're racing people, sometimes you don't really notice the time, but when you're by yourself, it's a lot easier to say, oh wow, it's only lap 25 or 63, Jesus. So yeah, one of them ones. But at the end of the day, this is what we do. This is what we enjoy doing. So we just sort of push through and see how far we can get to. I mean, at the end of the day, you never know. As I said, you never know where a points finish could get you at the end of the season. You never know what might happen to other people in the season. So you always got to just keep pushing and not give up, even though it's very easy to feel like you want to give up. But you see us now, we're kind of closing down on Joshua and Luke, and here we are behind the Porsche. I knew, wow, this is the first time we're going to get to have a battle with someone. I think that was someone else going through the pits. I think that was, I can't say his name, is it AA Medge or something like that? Something like that. But he was in the pits, and I think Jam, my 21, was also in the pits. So we've jumped a few people. Not sure if they had incidents or not. But we're now behind Joshua and Luke, so we might get to have that will-to-will battle that we never got in the first half of the race. I still hadn't actually overtaken anybody without them making a mistake, sort of thing. So yeah, just keep pushing on. You can see some of the leaders now coming into the pits, and yeah, it's such a long pit lane that even when you're this far away from the pit stop, as you can see, Joshua Luke goes off as well, so I don't actually get to have a will-to-will battle with him either. So the Porsches went off in the same position. I'm not sure if that was like a tricky corner for them, or whether the car gets really unsettled through there, but very similar to the way that Infinity went off. So I was able to push through and gain another position up into 8th place, and I'm actually behind CJ, and as you can see, CJ's got a 10-second penalty, which I think he either sped in pit lane or something like that. So yeah, I was sort of almost scratching my head at this point, like, wow, I can't believe I'm even this close. And as you can see now, the guy we see in the pit lane was it Scolds? I can't say a lot of these guys' names, I apologise, but he was in the pit for an absolute age, because he was in the pit when I was sort of just coming into sector 2, so he must have taken on fuel, or he must have started the race light, because he was in the pits for ages, unless he had some pretty serious damage. I was pretty shocked that I managed to sort of get in front, but it is a really long pit lane at Indianapolis. So up into 7th position, I think that is, and CJ in front of us now, and I was thinking, wow, like we've done okay. We've done okay. He's not that far ahead. I can see him on my mini map, and yeah, so it was all about just trying to push now. I was thinking, if I can just keep this pace up, then if I pit, I might still be able to get, I might still be able to salvage a top 10 result, because that was all that was on my thinking now. I wasn't really expecting to sort of trouble the front guys, because obviously they had made their one pit stop they needed, and I still had to make another one, but I knew at least my pace had been good, because when I came into the pits, I know I wasn't as close to sort of CJ and the rest of the guys as I am now, so I was pretty happy with my pace. Also, I could see that the Goonie had completely pulled away from the guys at the front, so I sort of knew that he had that my pace was decent, because for a lot of the first stint, when I was checking the telemetry, I was seeing that we were quite close on pace for the first stint. So I knew if he'd pulled sort of a 8-9 second gap, that I'd at least pulled away from the guys that were behind him, because I was matching his pace. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that. Also, halfway through the race now, and you can see in the mini map, there's literally a massive gap to CJ. So again, apologise for the highlights being pretty boring, with just sort of me driving around. As you can see, Vilas Oli went into the pits there, and he's come out, and I think he's just in front of CJ, and you can see him and CJ battling. So all this time I'm just closing them down, and someone else going into the pits now as well. So we really have made up quite a lot of positions, and I think sometimes that's the benefit of being able to get clear air, and you're not always going to be able to get clear air. That's the problem. You're not always going to pit early and be able to get clear air. So that's sort of the little dilemma you're going to have when doing these races. Is if you pit early and you get traffic, then your race is screwed. But if you pit early and you get a free run, then you can sort of focus on yourself. And for me personally, when I can focus on myself and I've got no one in view, it's always probably beneficial for me personally. But at the moment we're just flying through, lapping. Lap times have gone sort of up and down recently, but as I said, I did start having to start managing fuel. I started actually thinking, hold on a second, could I manage the fuel? It would have to be some serious management. I'd have to be running lean for a lot of the time. So at this point, when I can see myself catching them so quickly, I thought, you know what, I might have to start managing it. I might have to take the risk and see if I can finish the race without pitting, even though I would have had to save around about 6, 7 or maybe 8 laps worth of fuel. And yeah, as you can see, Joshua Luke quits there, and it just puts you off for a sec, because you always get like a weird little bit of lag. And almost drove off the track, but no harm done. I still keep pushing, and I can see CJ and Ollie having a almighty battle up front, and it's just bringing us closer and closer. And I think the fact that the Goonie hadn't stopped yet, and I could see the gap had come down tremendously to him, so I knew that I'm actually in a net 3rd position, and the battle in front of me was the battle for the win. And I thought, oh my god, if only I'd not had that incident earlier on, I would have been past this battle a long time ago. But it's just one of them things, and like at this point I was just thinking, wow, like such a chance for a race win around here. And I think CJ and Ollie come together. You see CJ coming off the grass there. I'm not sure if he was, I think he was nudged in the rear off the track a bit, and obviously he loses 1st position, and we're right behind him now. So you can see us still trying to manage the fuel. You can see me just thinking like, wow, I need to sort of keep up with these guys. If I can just stay in the slipstream and keep it in lean, would I have enough to save for the end? I knew it'd be tough, but yeah, I had to try it, because I knew I was in the position. I knew I'd done pretty well to get where I was, and knowing that CJ had a 10-second time penalty, at the very worst, if I could sort of hold the pace, at the very worst I could get 2nd position. So yeah, that was my thinking. But just looking at the fuel and looking at how many laps I had left, I just knew there was no chance. It's like 2.6 or 7 per lap, litres per lap, and I only had about 31 litres, and we just had 19 laps to go. So I knew it wasn't in my favour, but I just had to try something. And it was one of them dilemmas. Do I push on and try and battle these guys, or do I just put it back in lean and try and play the percentage game and see if I can get to the end? But if I couldn't get to the end, then I've sort of wasted so much time. So yeah, it was a tough one. But being right behind the battle in front, I was sort of thinking, wow, anything could happen. These guys could come together, and it'd leave me in 1st place. And I think if something like that happened, then it would have been crazy. It would have been crazy. But I personally, as you can see, my pace is really slowed down, because I'm really trying to save the fuel, trying to be gentle on the brakes, and just trying to save fuel as much as I can. But the fuel just wasn't having it, man. It wasn't having it, man. I pretty much, I knew that the jig was up. I was never going to save that fuel. So yeah, it was just so unlucky, because I knew I had the pace to win this race. And I knew if I didn't, even now, all I was thinking in my head is, if I did not have that incident, I would have been gone. I would have been well down the road. But sometimes these things happen, man, and you sort of got to just battle through. Even though I was extremely pissed, I'm not gonna lie. But you can see CJ and Ollie going wheel to wheel, side by side. Good hard racing, and we're just sat there in the background thinking, are these guys going to end up in the fence? And if they do, it's going to be a good chance. But I just knew the pit stop thing was just killing me. So that was always there in the back of my mind. And at this point, I gave up on trying to battle them, because I just knew that it's just not going to happen. My fuel was just going down way too quick, and no matter how much I'm trying to save, you can see me just cruising into corners and stuff, like going up shifting through corners I didn't need to and stuff. But yeah, it was just annoying. But even up till now, I still haven't actually managed a decent overtake maneuver on anybody. You can see they're starting to get away now, because I'm just trying to run it in lean, and go through corners and higher gears and stuff, and it's just not worth it by this stage. But CJ's actually taken the lead. I think the lead, well, he's taken the provisional lead because Tony Lazar still hadn't pitted. He was running in the AMG and he'd been out for quite some time as well, still hadn't pitted. So I'm actually in 4th position, but a net 3rd. I had the Scold behind me, well, Scold, I can't say his name, I'm sorry mate, but I was thinking, where did the Goonie go? Because the Goonie had some great pace at the start, and he seemed to have dropped back quite far behind Matty as well. So yeah, it was a weird one. I'm not too sure what happened, because he did seem to sort of be pulling away from the pack, and at that time I thought this guy is definitely going to win this race because he had some good pace. So yeah, I'm not too sure what happened, or whether it had sort of a glitch in the pit stop or whatever, but yeah, I just kept trying to save this fuel. 13 laps to go, 19 litres. You can already see it just doesn't match up, does it? So yeah, at this stage I knew the game was up, and yeah, pretty much that was really the point of the race, where I kind of just felt I've done all I could, but yeah, it's just not happening for me. But I was still happy with my pace. I was happy with the fact of knowing that without the incident, I'm pretty sure I would have been somewhere ahead of that battle that was ahead of me at the moment. So that was the only positive I could really take out of this win. Now it was just about trying to stretch the gap to the cars behind as much as I could, because obviously I knew I was coming to the pits again. So yeah, I pretty much knew I was going to lose some positions anyway. And I wasn't sure, but I had engine damage. I was like, engine damage? Hold on a second. Mechanical failures are off. How am I getting engine damage? I was up till now, it's baffling me how I had 1 engine damage, even though mechanical failures are off. I just didn't understand whatsoever. But yeah, lap 56 now, so there's not that many laps of the race left to go, and you can see the leaders have completely pulled away from me, and I was still trying to run it in lean. I don't know why. I thought maybe if I just do it even more, it would help me, but nah, it was done. Trying to flick through the fuel and stuff like that. It was a pointless exercise. All I did was just help the guys behind me catch up, and yeah, it was kind of silly of me, but at the same time I had to try. But you can see 5 laps to go, and we go into the pits, and yeah, this was pretty much race over. But I made sure I didn't speed into the pit lane. Obviously I didn't want to get even more time added on to what I already had. So in the pits for the 2nd time, and as you can see, we were going to add fuel. In the end I think we added a bit too much. How much? I'm not sure how much fuel I managed to save. Maybe I managed to save around 4 or 5 laps worth of fuel in the end, but yeah, it was never going to be enough. And I was just looking like, wow, I'm still in 4th position. So there goes the Goonie, there goes Matt, and I was in 6th position. I was thinking, can I hold on to 6th? I mean, 6th wouldn't be that bad, I guess. But yeah, when I saw the opportunity that I had, as another guy goes past me, I think that is AA Medj. I'm looking 4 laps to go. That's a massive gap. I'm not gonna have to catch that. And Jam, my 21, goes past me. So you can see we got up to 3rd position, and you can see how much places we lost when having to pit again. So it was sort of like a double jeopardy almost, that collision at the start of the race, because obviously it put me out of sequence and gave me damage straight away, so we was already on the back foot, but also it didn't really allow me to refuel as much as I wanted to. So that probably was, for me, worse than the contact, was the fact that I couldn't put in as much fuel as I needed, causing me to pit twice. So that was probably more damaging than the actual incident itself. But I was pleased with the way that I drove, to be honest. Even though throughout this whole 63 lap race I actually didn't overtake anybody on track, anybody. So yeah, it was, I don't know, it was a strange one. Longest race of the season, and the race where I pretty much didn't see anything happen or didn't have any wheel-to-wheel action whatsoever. So we come across the line in 8th position, and instantly I just stopped the car. I was just so done at this point in time. But yeah, that was the race. That was my race. It was very disappointing, man. Very disappointing. As you can see, we ended up just getting the fastest lap of the race, but for a long time in the race we were sort of lapping around that lap time, which I think allowed us to get back into the position, to get back into the race for the lead, sort of briefly, before obviously just having to just manage things. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's the way our things are. But next round is at the Bugatti circuit, I think, although England did reach the semi-final, so I'm not sure whether that's going to get postponed or not. So it could be the Bugatti circuit, Le Mans Bugatti circuit, or not. But anyway, it's Kryptic TMG. Like and subscribe, hit the notification bell to catch my videos first, and peace.